So why do we need a more holistic mindset? Well, in this video we will look at the limitations of a traditional and conditioned mindset and compare this with a more holistic mindset. Did you know that children have an holistic mindset for the first 7 years of their lives? A mindset in which they don't judge and can still look at everyday things in amazement, like water coming out of the tap or wind blowing through the trees. But in the course of our lives we become more and more conditioned in our thinking. Education, religion, science and government tells us how and what to think, and thus consciously or unconsciously condition our brain. And during our lifetime we are more and more forced to put our mind in a cognitive mode, a mode that helps us to study, to become a doctor, a lawyer or scientist. And the more we are in this mental condition, the more familiar we find it, and the less open and open-minded we can look at things. Because everything we see or hear is automatically labeled and put in a box based on the rules and principles that others have defined for us. This automatism was very useful in our traditionally slowly changing world. But in tomorrow's world it won't be much of use. In tomorrow's world we again need people who can look at things in a childlike and holistic way. We need people who can come up with creative and out-of-the-box solutions, because they are not stuck in patterns and structures determined by the established order. When we look at this picture, you'll immediately understand what I mean. Because of our conditioned brain, we can no longer think freely. We can no longer look at things from a holistic perspective. The question that comes with this picture was probably find the shortest route from A to B. On the left we see a picture where a conditioned brain has been working. And on the right we see a picture where an unconditioned mind has been working. On the left the old thinking, on the right the new thinking. Disruptors, innovators and children often come up with straightforward solutions to complex looking problems. How is this possible? Well, disruptors, innovators are people who, just like children, can still look at things with amazement and without judgment. And because of this they can even see the simplicity in complex things. Their brains are not so conditioned yet, so they are still open to solutions that in this picture are literally out of the box. In my opinion, the world of tomorrow is not about learning new things, but about unlearning old things. Because this conditioning might be a difficult concept, I would like to illustrate it with a visual experiment, which shows that we are more conditioned than we might think. In NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, they call this phenomenon perception is projection. And by this they mean that a large part of our perception of the world around us is based on our own projection. So your brain wants to see familiar patterns. So unfamiliar patterns are much harder to see because your brain is blocking them. So if your mind is conditioned to see problems, your brain prefers to see only problems and not solutions. Now let's start with the experiment. While I continue talking, I would like you to ask to look at the dot on the lady's nose with both eyes for at least 20 seconds and try to entirely focus on the dot. And maybe you have done such a test in a different context or setting, but just join in and experience what it does for you today. This experiment illustrates exactly what this video lesson is all about. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I switch the image. And the question is, what do you see now? Well, most people will now see a warm colored face. And this is strange because we are looking at a white surface. What you see very clearly here is that your brain projects patterns based on information already offered to your brain in an earlier stage. An excellent visual example of perception is projection. And the interesting thing is that this happens every moment of the day. All the information or every situation you encounter is already filtered and colored by your preferred patterns in your brain. And it is of course very convenient that this happens because your mind can judge very quickly and place observations in boxes and label them. But it also creates a problem that you unconsciously suffer from. Your brain compares all incoming information with existing information patterns in the brain. So your mind unconsciously filters all your observations and influences every day how you perceive your environment. And the more conditioned your mind is, the more it filters and the less we know it, because this filtering happens on an unconscious level. And this is a big problem if you want to absorb new information like this video course for example. Napoleon Hill said something interesting about this. He said, "The most restrictive habit is to test all new information against what you already know. It is the perfect method to stay where you are." In other words, if you want to learn new things, you will have to stay away from your conditioned brain. But how to do that? Well, we have to go back to that childlike state of being, a condition where we don't judge and let all information come in unfiltered. Because every time we judge incoming information, we color and/or block this information. In the past, in a stable world, this was convenient and very necessary. But in today's rapidly changing world, it works more often against you than for you. So we need to return to that childlike state of being, a condition in which we do not judge and are entirely in the here and now. Well, we have come to the end of this video again. I hope you found this video inspiring to watch, and I'll see you in the next video.